Now that you know how to find a reliable research article, I want you to go ahead and pick one. Once you have picked one, then you can go ahead with the PowerPoint slides. The remainder of the PowerPoint slides will show you what to be looking for while reading your article to ensure that it meets the RSVP criteria that we talked about in class on Thursday. The R in RSVP is reliable. I'm only going to focus on two statistical measures that will tell you whether your research is reliable or not. The first is Cronbach's alpha. This is a statistical measure that looks at whether the instrument is reliable. When looking at Cronbach's alpha, you want to have a 0.7 or higher. If the measure is lower than 0.7, then you do not have a reliable instrument. The second is inter-rater reliability. This is used for observations and other ways of subjective data collection techniques. When using subjective data collection techniques, you should always have multiple raters. When looking at inter-rater reliability, you want 80% or above. This will mean that the raters are highly reliable. All of the examples I will use throughout the rest of the PowerPoint will be from that article on ADHD that you just opened previously. So if you would like to go ahead and open the article, you are more than welcome. In this example, I'm showing Cronbach's alpha, or alpha coefficient. Each assessment that is used in this research article has been tested with alpha coefficient. You can see the highlighted areas, 0.85 and 0.89, are the alpha coefficients or Cronbach alpha for these two measurement techniques. These are both highly reliable. This is an example of how the ADHD research article uses inter-rater reliability. During the play sessions, multiple raters observed the students. In order to find the percent that those raters agreed, they took an inter-rater reliability test. For do skills, it was 90.3. For don't skills, it was 96%. During cleanup sessions, for do skills, it was 92%, and for don't skills, it was 92.6%. This shows that all of the percentages have high rater reliability. The S in RSVP stands for standardization. I'm only going to focus on 3 areas of standardization. The first is sample. You need a large sample size, larger than 200, to be considered significant. However, most of the samples you will see will be under 50, which is okay. Next, the procedure. Has the study been duplicated or cited by other research studies? And last, the population. Has the study been found effective with a certain population or many different populations? All of these play a large role in standardization. I will only show one example of standardization in the ADHD article. However, there are many. This is an example of a research paper's description of the targeted population. This will be found under the participants subheading. As you see, in this research study, there were 4 different criteria that children and parents had to meet before being accepted into the research study. Go ahead and read through these. This will tell you what type of population they were looking for. V in RSVP stands for validity. There are many types of validity, and this is a very important criteria to meet when looking at research studies. However, I'm going to keep it simple, and we're only going to look at two types of validity that have to do with the instruments that are measuring. These two types of validity are construct and content. When looking at construct validity, you're looking at whether the instruments are valid. Do they measure what they say they measure? And in content validity, you're looking at whether the instrument is accurate. Do all of the items cover the subject that is being assessed? In the ADHD article from before, they use a lot of different measures to assess the data. In this excerpt, they are measuring for parent practices. They use two assessment techniques, the PCRQ, or the Parent-Child Relationship Questionnaire, and the DPICS, or the Dyadic Parent-Child Interaction Coding System. As you can see, both of these assessment measures are followed by references, in parentheses. That means that these assessment measures have been used previously in other research. In order to be a valid assessment, these measures have to have both content and construct validity. The fact that they have been previously researched helps them to be valid measures. Finally, the P in RSVP stands for practicality. When you're looking at practicality, you ask questions such as, is the intervention easy to implement? How much does the intervention cost? And, most importantly, are the stakeholders invested in the intervention and find it acceptable? Here is an example of practicality from the ADHD research article. Most of the time, the practicality piece will not be found through statistical, numerical research measures. However, you will find a blurb about it in the conclusion section. At the end of the article, it talks about how the evidence from this research proves acceptability and feasibility of the FSSEE intervention. Now that we looked at the RSVP of the ADHD article, we see that it has reliability, standardization, practicality, and validity. However, there are still some more important variables that have been left out of the RSVP criteria. The first is effect size, or ES. This will tell us whether the intervention was effective or successful in doing what it set out to do. It really shows the magnitude of the difference between two groups. In order to have a highly successful intervention, you want a 0.7 to a 1. A moderately successful intervention will show 0.4 to 0.699. Another important variable is integrity. Can this intervention be repeated with fidelity? So we're looking at the ability to implement an intervention as it was intended to be implemented. If you cannot implement the intervention with integrity, the data will be skewed and it will not be appropriate. Here is an example of effect size in the ADHD research article. The effects of child functioning at school is being statistically identified in this section. of the article. Because the effect sizes are 0.75 and 0.84, you can see that this intervention was highly effective with regards to child functioning at school. This also means that the intervention effectively decreased teacher ratings of ADHD and ODD symptoms. Lastly, here is an example of integrity from the ADHD article. You can see from this table that each session for the FSSEE intervention has been mapped out. It tells you the session type and the session content. By having explicit directions and instructions for how to implement the intervention, the researchers can ensure that the intervention has been implemented the way it was supposed to be, or with integrity and fidelity. Now that you know what a peer-reviewed research article looks like, and also how to find it through the UMSL library, I hope that you can go ahead and apply the RSVP, the effect size, and the integrity checklist to not only find a good intervention, but to write an in-depth review of the intervention. Good luck and happy writing. Please contact me if you need any help or clarification.